What up, is Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads. Guess what? It is Labor Day weekend. It is 95 degrees hot out here. I'm on the deck of my in-laws here. And so I just wanted to give you guys the final video of fantasy football tips in general. What you can look for. I've been helping a couple people through their live drafts. Just some good close friends that honestly, these tips actually really help them on draft day. There's so many more tips in season. It's why it's so important to actually follow somebody that has had the experience of going through some of these championship runs here. The first one I want to talk about is draft position, and that matters a lot to what pick that you need to make at that point. And what I mean by that is if you are into that, let's say 12 team, if you're 3-4, if you're 8, 9, 10, that range right before these turns, it is so important to realize and understand what the other teams that have done after you, what they have they chosen a quarterback already? Have they chosen a tight end? There is oftentimes where I've seen a team, it's one QB, just redraft, or it's even dynasty where it's super flex, and maybe there's two teams after them have already drafted their QBs, and in one QB, so redraft, team 11 and 12, and you're team 10, and you see that they've already drafted a QB. You don't need to draft a QB then there. You can draft a different position and take QB on the background there. It is so important to see what the other teams have done. Yeah, you know what? There is the 5% of the times that a team goes double tight end, or they pick up a quarterback way too early. But again, they're worsening their rosters. They're playing a game that is not very good for them. And so it is so important to look at what other teams are doing. I was so early on, 15 years ago when I started fantasy football, I was so focused about me, that there was times where I would make a pick and go, well, crap, why are they taking my player before that wraparound? And it's like, well, I was making the wrong decision. I see, okay, there's a team that has 3 wide receivers and 1 running back. They're probably going to go running back. I need a running back and wide receiver. I'm going to go running back, and then I'll come back and get the wide receiver that likely will drop. Likely. It's key. It is likely. The next thing is tiers or value-based drafting. It's kind of a 2 different separate part question, but you have tiers, where tiers are so important because if you fall off into a different tier, you are losing a lot of draft value. And so let's say if you have Jefferson, Chase, and Hill as your tier 1. Kupp is hurt, so probably in your tier 2. And you're sitting at number 6, and you're looking and staring at potentially getting one of those 3 wide receivers or a running back. Or if you're further down, let's say a couple rounds later, there is 1 wide receiver in tier 3. Let's say it's T. Higgins. I'm just randomly spitting out information here. And there is a lot of running backs left in your tier that you like. Then that is where you have to take the wide receiver. You look at the other teams, but if you kind of gather all that information up and you go, okay, I'm going to take that last tiered wide receiver and I'm going to better my team at draft day. You can't win drafts, but you can lose, or you can't win leagues with your draft, but you could definitely lose them. You can definitely hurt your team and make it that much harder to win on a 12-team league. You're looking at 8%. And so you need to be able to withstand this. And again, I've talked about this previously, but you have to do some swings. You can't hit a home run walking to first base. You have to make some big swings, whether that's breakouts, whether that's sleepers, whether that's rookies. You can break, and to do that, I break my season into chunks. And I've heard other leagues or other teams doing this as well, especially when it comes to redraft. When it comes to redraft, it's so much easier to do this because a lot of times you might have a suspended player like Kamara. You might have a Breece Hall who's hurt. You might have a backfield that looks a little bit murky right now, but that might clear up as the season goes on. And so the first 4 games, kind of the middle of the season, and then you have the last quarter of the season into the playoffs. I want players that are good, depending on your league format. I want players that, yes, may succeed right away, that may be droppable after a little bit. Like, I'm going to know very quickly what the Green Bay wide receiver field is going to be like. The Philadelphia backfield, I'm going to know that. Kansas City backfield is one of the biggest backfields, and it's like I watched another different Mahomes documentary, and it's like McKinnon, CEH, what is going to happen there? Pacheco, like, are we going to figure that? We're going to figure that out very quickly. We're going to figure out what is going on with J.K. Dobbins. Like, we're going to be figuring out on these players very quickly. And so that is why I want some players that are potentially even droppable right away. It's like boom or bust. Like, are they going to succeed? Are they not going to succeed? And Isaiah Hodgins, who's super late wide receiver, is he going to be performing? Is he not? Is he going to be a giant that I'm going to sell off in the field? And then later in the season, I want the Breece Halls. I want the Javonte Williams. I want players, and if I can't get them now, I can always get them in the middle of the season or early on in the season. I was one of the players that drafted. I drafted two players. I drafted a player and traded for a player a lot in last year's leagues that helped me out a ton. I drafted Kenneth Walker because I liked Kenneth Walker's talent, and I figured he'd be a second-half player. He ended up getting becoming in because of Rashad Penny's injury. And I traded for Travis Etienne because he had such a slow start to the year. And so when you look at this, you have to get these boom or bust players. The next thing you do is you just got to erase the points method, the quarterbacks score the most points type of thing. Yes, there are quarterbacks that will score more points. There are wide receivers that will score more points than tight ends. And again, it comes back into that value-based drafting. If you are drafting a player, what is the replacement level that you're going to, if you are skipping on that, what is the replacement level of that? So, for example, you get tight end 3 or wide receiver 15 in round 3, we'll just say. Or you go into round 8, you get tight end 10 and wide receiver, probably 30. So would you rather have tight end 10 and wide receiver 15? No. Yeah. Wide receiver 15 and tight end 10, or tight end 3 and wide receiver 30. What is the difference between wide receiver 15 and 30? Is it a significant enough point? Is there a player at wide receiver 30 that you like that actually might be wide receiver 20? These are all things. It's why I draft these onesie positions, and I know it's very, especially tight end. I want a top 4 tight end. I don't care. I know the value of a top tier 3 tight end. For me to win a championship, I likely need a good quarterback, which I feel like are easier to find later in the draft. I need a really good tight end, and then I need some good positional players, and I need to hit on some of these later round running backs and wide receivers. So tight ends, I can't emphasize enough. The Kelce's, the Andrews, the Hawkinsons, and there are a couple players that I like too. I like Waller. Don't love him. He's a bit hurt. He's a little bit older. You look at Goddard. I like him. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Maybe injuries play out. Kittle, big superstar potential, but has a lot of mouths to feed, and we don't know about Brock Purdy. So again, these are some of the most important tips when it comes to fantasy football and dynasty fantasy football. I can't emphasize enough, just going through some of these simple things on draft day. I've helped so many people through this, and know your league rules. Half point, standard, which is non-PPR, PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 quarterbacks. I talked to a player who's in an 16 team league, a 6 team league, which I don't even know why they do it. But it's 6 teams. And he said, who do you pick 1 overall? I got the first overall pick. What is your answer to this question? I'm very interested about it. My answer was Travis Kelce. I said, the point is, there are 6 teams. You're going to get excellent wide receivers. You're going to get excellent running back. You're going to have probably a really good quarterback. This is a 2 quarterback league. I said, go for Travis Kelce 101. Because the difference between him and any other tight end is probably significant. He drafted Travis Kelce 101. Then it was 206, which is the 12th pick or whatever it was. He's like, what do I pick here? I said, well, you have to start 2 tight ends. Is Mark Andrews available? He's like, Mark Andrews is available. I'm like, pick Mark Andrews. You now have tight end 1 and tight end 2. And he asked me what other player, and I said Josh Allen, because honestly, you want, again, the players that are going to be significantly above. And you looked at his running backs were Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think he still got, he got like Saquon Barkley in there and stuff too. It was just, the running backs and wide receivers were so good still on his team that you look at it. I think they start 3 wide receivers, and there's just a regular flex spot or 2. But it's like, you look at his roster and you have still amazing running backs, amazing wide receivers. But guess what the difference is? He has tight end 1 and 2. He has a wide receiver 1 a quarterback that's potentially 1 overall, and another quarterback that he had, Herbert, a little bit later, very shortly after, quarterback 4. So it's like, you have to make and figure out with what your rules are. If it's 6 or 16 or 18, the shorter the league, the more important some of these onesie positions are, but also the bigger the league is sometimes these some of these onesie positions are. It just really is, because I'm in an 18-team league. Quarterbacks and tight ends are very important there, because you're looking at potentially Travis Kelce versus, again, starting tight end 16. When you get these 10 and 12 man, that's why they're almost like these perfect kind of, like, tight ends are a little bit nuked, quarterbacks are a little bit nuked, but then you start getting off these standard deviations, and it's so important to pick up some of these onesie positions. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. I am hot. I'm taking this off, and I'm going to go jump in the water. Peace out. Take care. We'll see you again on Tuesday.